everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Movie Crusaders. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're doing as you see over my head, a massive review of 5 movies that have come out here over the last couple months, or weeks in a sense. We're at this time of year where there's just too many movies and not enough time to do individual videos for every single one. So I'm trying to watch as many as I can, but instead of doing individual videos for each one, I'm just going to kind of do all of them in this one review. They're not going to probably be as long as a normal review that I do. This will probably be like little quick snippets here and there, but we're going to be talking about 5 movies here today. We're going to be talking about National Champions, Sing 2, Rumble, Ron's Gone Wrong, and The Unforgivable. This is not the only massive review dump that I'm going to do. This is just part 1. Like I said, there's more and more movies that I have to watch here over the course of the next week or two to try to get as many of them watched by the end of the year. So there will probably be at least another one, if not a third one, that I'll be doing of this as well to kind of get as much of these reviewed for you guys as I can. So these are the 5 that we're talking about today. Starting off with first one, National Champions. This is a movie that just kind of snuck up on me. It just randomly dropped a trailer a couple weeks back about the story of the Heisman Trophy winner who's going to be going number 1 in the NFL draft, and they're on the brink of the national championship game. But then he decides with his fellow teammates that they're going to sit out of the championship game if the college players aren't properly paid and taken care of with their long-term medical bills and all this kind of stuff. And because he's the Heisman Trophy winner and the potentially number 1 draft pick at the upcoming draft, to try to hold the championship game hostage by trying to rally all the other players to join in with him to boycott the championship game until their demands are met by the NCAA. Obviously, this has been a real-life hot-button issue over the last few years with college players demanding that they get paid by the NCAA. There have been some movements in that in terms of them being able to do sponsorships and situations like that, but they haven't been getting outright paid by the NCAA. This film, cast-wise, I think the cast looks great in this. You got J.K. Simmons as the coach, Coach James Lazer. You got Timothy Oliphant, who I'm a huge fan of. You have Tim Blake Nelson, Kristen Chenoweth, Alexander Ludwig, Jeffrey Donovan, David Kochner, Little Rel Howery, Stephen James. All these guys and girls are actors and actresses that I really enjoy watching in whatever respective films they've been in over the course of their careers. So putting them all together in this film, it really kind of made me actually excited to see this film because the trailer actually really grabbed me because obviously I'm a sports fan. I played sports through all my life, and this has been an issue that I've actually been really, really interested in because of, granted, sidebar for me right here, I love the NCAA football video games. I played them religiously for pretty much my whole teen years, but in about 8 years ago, the game got pulled because the players said they should have been paid for their likenesses. Now, granted, those games characters look nothing like the players, so that argument's kind of invalid. But because of that, the NCAA football games got canceled and have not been able to be back on the shelf since then. Now, they're supposed to be coming back here in 2023, thank God. But this is kind of around the same kind of thing. The way this movie is done, it feels very real. And what I mean by it feels very real is that the way the characters, mainly Stephen James's LaMarcus James and Alexander Ludwig's Emmett Sunday, the way they go about doing their stuff for the boycotting and the way they handle the press and the way that they're basically handling the whole situation, I think is done amazingly. I think the way the steps are being taken by the NCAA in this film and kind of how they're trying to undercut and try to be sneaky and try to do certain things to discredit LaMarcus James's character and all that stuff, it feels very real. It feels like very today's standards of what they would do to try to kind of make themselves be more on the positive than on the negative than what LaMarcus James's character and Emmett Sunday's character is trying to do. J.K. Simmons' coach, James Lazer, is kind of stuck in the middle of this because he's their coach, but he's got the NCAA breathing on his neck. He's got the press. He's got a unhappy wife, played by Kristen Chenoweth. He's just kind of getting hit with all this. Plus, he's still got to train all his other players for this national championship game that's happening in less than 72 hours. And J.K. Simmons puts on a fantastic performance in this, as basically the world is crumbling down around him, and he's just trying to stay above water, trying to juggle all these issues, while he's constantly being blamed for something that he hasn't done. Stephen James as LaMarcus James, I think he does a great job playing this character who is really kind of going out there and risking his entire career, because he will get paid millions and millions of dollars. He will get the sponsorships. He will get all this money that every college football athlete strives for, but he's willing to risk it all for his best friend and for basically all the other college athletes, past, present, and future, for this belief that he feels is very strong. The rest of the cast, Little Rel Howery, who's like the assistant coach to J.K. Simmons, I think he does a solid job. Tim Blake Nelson is Roger Cummings. He's basically, I'm blanking on the terminology, like one of the sponsor guys who like pays like, like booster. He's a booster. He does a great job kind of playing this like snaky kind of character. Jeffrey Donovan is one of the main NCAA guys. I think he's like the chairman of the NCAA. He plays it very well. One of the performances that really stand out for me is Uzo Aduba. Many people know her from Orange is the New Black as Crazy Eyes. She plays Catherine Poe, which is kind of like the investigator for the NCAA who kind of goes and finds the dirt on everybody, who always just seems to have something in her back pocket to use against anyone that comes across her path. She has this one scene in the latter half of the film with LaMarcus James and Emmett Sunday that is such a powerful little performance and packed in a 5-minute monologue that is amazing. It's one of my favorite acted scenes of the year. Uzo is a phenomenal actress. I love her in everything she's in, and she, even in this film where she's playing this character that you want to hate, and because she's literally the roadblock that's keeping LaMarcus James and Emmett Sunday from fully capturing their goal in this, but she does it in a way that you don't like outright hate her. You understand her. You understand what she's doing. You understand what she's got to do. You don't like what she has to do, but she does a fantastic job doing it. This movie, like I said, does a great job. I was actually surprised at how much I actually liked this film because of the realism to it. Does it get a little too twisty at the end for my liking? Sure, but it didn't deter from the film for me from its overall aesthetics of what it was trying to do. National Champions, I'm going to give a 90%. I think everything that it strives out to do, it does very, very well. The only thing I wish we could have seen was the outcome of the championship game, which we didn't get to see. But that wasn't what the focus of this film was. But I would definitely recommend National Champions if it is around in your area. It is definitely one of the more probably underrated films of the year. Going on to our next film, we are going to be talking about Sing 2. I was actually one of the people that actually really enjoyed Sing 1. I loved the cast. I loved the music that they used with it. And when I heard that we were going to get a sequel for it, I was actually pretty excited about it. Then the first trailer came out, and that's where, not necessarily that I got like worried, but that first trailer pretty much gave away the whole film. It pretty much gave you the beginning, the middle, the end, the whole plot, the hills and valleys of what this film was going to be. They gave it all away in a 3.5-minute trailer, and so it really had me worried that why did they give away the whole film in a trailer? Because there's nothing, for the most part, that this trailer didn't give you that you are not going to be shocked by throughout the rest of the film. But nonetheless, everyone from the first film is returning. Matthew McConaughey as Buster Moon, Reese Witherspoon as Rosita, Scarlett Johansson as Ash, Tori Kelly as Mina, Nick Kroll as Gunter, Taron Egerton as Johnny. Everyone from the first film, outside of Seth MacFarlane, is back for this film. And it's a welcome back. I love all these characters. I love the voice cast of these characters. Here's the problem with Sing 2. It doesn't hold the heart and the magic that the first film did. They're all basically coming together again to try to put on like a big show, and I guess like the Las Vegas of this world. You got a character, Mr. Crystal, played by Bobby Cannavale. It works until the very, very end, and then it goes way too over the top with the actions of Mr. Crystal that just kind of took me out of the film. But everyone else, they're doing their singing performances. They're all doing a real solid job. Bono comes in as well as, oh God, what's Bono's name in this film? Clay Calloway, who's basically a, I'd say kind of almost like a Johnny Cash kind of character, where he's a legend, but he hasn't performed in a very, very long time, and they're trying to get him to perform for their play kind of thing. That storyline element, I think, works for the most part. But like I said, the film just doesn't have, like, when we get to the third act is really well done. It has the emotional weight that you had from the first film. But the problem is that the first film had so much more for its characters, building them up because they were characters that were basically, I don't want to say damaged, but they had goals. They had things that they were striving to be because their everyday lives weren't working. In Sing 2, they already are kind of doing what they want to do with their lives. They're happy in a way with, they're performing and doing all this kind of stuff, but now they're just trying to hit the next echelon of their careers, and it just doesn't hold the same kind of weight, it doesn't hold the same kind of punch that Sing 1 had. It's still an enjoyable film. I still enjoyed all the characters and had fun with it, but it just doesn't match the first film's energy and heart and feelings that the first film had. And by the end of the second film, I still liked it. It just wasn't as good as the first one. So I'm going to give Sing 2 a 69%. I think if you have kids, they're going to love the film regardless. If you liked Sing 1, I think you'll like Sing 2. You just won't like it as much. But it's still a very solid film overall. Going to my next film, I'm going to be talking about Rumble. This film I thought was going to come out next year, but all of a sudden it just dropped on Paramount+. This is a film that I was actually generally excited for because it was basically an animated monster film about pro wrestling. That's my wheelhouse. Why wouldn't I love that? That's exactly my kind of film, is watching basically pro wrestling with monsters. It's got some WWE wrestlers voice casting in the film, so it's got that WWE kind of energy in there, but ultimately that's the downfall of this film, is that WWE feels like it's all over this film. I don't remember if WWE produced this or not. I'm actually checking real quick on who produced it, but I don't think that it was Paramount and Real FX Creative Studios, so WWE Studios did not produce this, but damn, it felt like it. I mean, you've got WWE merch like Raw, SmackDown. You've got anytime something like happens with music, you got them playing like wrestlers theme songs like Rey Mysterio and Cena and like Street Profits, which I know for people who aren't wrestling fans, you're like, who are those people? Exactly my point. But the problem is because of the WWE aesthetic over this, it just kind of felt off and felt cheap. And it felt like a made-for-TV or made-for-DVD film by WWE. The cast, I mean, it's got a solid cast to it, but the problem is that the cast isn't that great in it. Will Arnett plays the main character, or the main monster, Rayburn, but it feels like he's doing his best Seth Rogen impression, because never in this film, every time he talked, I just thought I was seeing Seth Rogen as a monster and not Will Arnett. And Will Arnett's one of the better voice actors out there, but it just felt like he was trying to do a Seth Rogen impression, so that way people didn't realize it was Will Arnett in the movie. Is it Guinevere? No, Geraldine Viswanathan. I said that wrong, and I apologize. I love her. I think she was great in the Broken Hearts Gallery that came out last year. She's also pretty funny in Miracle Workers. She plays Winnie. Nothing wrong with her character. I think she did a fine job with that. But then it's the other characters. You got Stephen A. Smith as basically the announcer or like kind of like the broadcaster. I can't stand Stephen A. Smith. He is ungodly annoying, and he's basically playing himself in this film, and he gets way too much dialogue in this movie to the point where I almost wanted to mute whenever he was talking. The story itself, it doesn't try to break the mold on anything. It's a very paint-by-numbers story. If you've seen a film like this, it's the same twists and turns, and at this point in the film, this is going to happen, and it does that exact same thing in this movie. It doesn't try to be different, except for that it's monsters and pro wrestling. It feels very Real Steel-like, the Hugh Jackman film, without the whole, like, father-son dynamic. But what they're going through in this, it feels very Real Steel-like, but not nearly as good. The animation is okay at best. It just felt just kind of blah for me, which sadly, like I said, for a movie that I was so excited to see, this would have been on my most anticipated list for next year. But then when I saw it dropped, I actually got really excited to see it. But then ultimately, halfway through this film, I'm like, I'm not enjoying this. I'm not liking this, and every time I see a WWE thing pop up, I just got annoyed with it. So Rumble to me was a disappointment. It did not do what I think it was trying to set itself out to do, and ultimately was just kind of a disappointing film overall. Kids, I think, will like it regardless. So if you got Paramount Plus and you're trying to find a movie to put on in front of the kids, I think Rumble will work. You personally, as an adult, probably are not going to enjoy this film. You, as a WWE fan, probably are not going to enjoy this film. It just felt like a big miss for me. So going to my overall score for Rumble, I'm going to give it a 49%. I can't remember if I said what my Sing 2 score was. If I didn't say what it was a, I think I said 69% for Sing. If I hadn't said, I just, for some reason, cannot remember if I said Sing 2 score. But yeah, Rumble gets a 49%. Going on to my next film, this movie came out in October, but I hadn't seen it. And then it dropped on Disney Plus, so I figured, you know what, screw it. Let's go ahead and check it out, because I actually heard good things, and that is Ron's Gone Wrong. Ron's Gone Wrong, I remember seeing the trailer for this, and I wasn't necessarily excited for it, because it basically just seemed like, I feel like kind of like a Big Hero 6 without the superhero aspect of it. The story follows Barney, played by Jack Dylan Grazer. Basically, he lives in a world where smartphones aren't really a thing. It's more the B-bots, which are basically these mobile robots that are basically like cell phones that basically become best friends for the kids that have them. They take pictures, they make friends for these kids, they basically do everything that a kid would want. But Barney comes from a not so wealthy family, and he's pretty much the only kid that does not have a B-bot. So when his birthday comes around, no one comes to his birthday party, and his father basically gets one that fell off the truck. And it's a pretty damaged one at that. And this B-bot is voiced by Zach Galifianakis, who I love, who then gets dubbed the name Ron. And basically this movie is about the journey of Ron and Barney, because Ron, because he is busted, isn't able to connect to the Bubble network, which is what the whole network that runs the B-bots are called. So he doesn't have any of the safety protocols. He doesn't have any of the stuff that all the other B-bots do. So Ron can kind of do things that other ones can't. He can, hit you. He can do other things that other B-bots can't do. And it develops this relationship with Barney. Like, Barney goes from hating Ron because he's different to accepting Ron because he's different. And because Ron's different and Barney's also different, that mutual respect and friendship starts to grow. Obviously, you have these other subplots of the Bubble Corporation trying to find Ron so that way it doesn't shut down the whole Bubble organization. So you have this over-glaring villain subplot of, like, the CEOs who are just trying to save their companies, but they look bad in terms of Barney and the kids. It also kind of has, like, an E.T. vibe, except instead of it being an alien, it's a rogue robot where this whole corporation is kind of coming after this one kid and his, friend Ron. And him trying to overcome that and basically kind of save Ron and basically all the other B-bots from this CEO who just kind of wants to basically spy on kids in terms of trying to figure out what they want and what they want to buy so they can basically, when they get older, basically serve as a big merch cash grab for them. That's basically kind of what the plot is. But here's the thing, it doesn't sound that fun, but the dialogue and the journey that we go on with these characters is actually quite enjoyable. I really like Jack Dylan Grazer as Barney. I really like Zach Galifianakis as Ron. I think their characters and the journey that they go on is actually quite amusing and quite fun, much like in Big Hero 6, like I said, without the superhero aesthetics. The rest of the cast, you got Ed Helms, you got Olivia Colman, you got Rob Delaney, Justice Smith. Solid voice cast for everybody else. They don't overtake the film. This is strictly mostly a Barney and Ron film. And by the end of the day, by the end of the film, I really had a fun time watching this movie. It was one of those that I'm glad I went back and checked out, because this was a movie that I had no interest in seeing, and it was a movie that I was probably just going to let kind of pass and never watch. But because it became available on Disney Plus, I was like, screw it, let's check it out. And ended up liking it at the end of the day. Visually, I think the animation's quite good. But it's just a lot of fun. It's definitely a movie that not only will kids like, but I think adults will like too. So yeah, definitely a recommendation for Ron's Gone Wrong. I said it's on Disney Plus right now. I'm gonna give Ron's Gone Wrong a 77%. Like I said, solid film overall, decent voice casting, and just a lot of fun to watch. Going to our final film of this massive review dump, we are going to be talking about the Netflix film The Unforgivable, which is basically this really dark film with Sandra Bullock. She basically plays this character named Ruth Slater. She's a woman who, while trying to protect her younger sister, murdered a police officer and thus spent the last 20 years in jail. She just got out and just basically is trying to reconnect with her sister, but her sister went into the system and she can't find her, and no one wants her to find her because they won't let Ruth forget about what she did, so they treat her differently, obviously because she's a cop killer. And it's all about her trying to find her sister and reconnect with her. Besides Sandra Bullock, you got a great cast of Viola Davis, John Bernthal, Vincent D'Onofrio. Those three are three big time actors. I mean, I love John Bernthal. Viola Davis is one of the best actresses working today, and Vincent D'Onofrio is one of those phenomenal actors that's out there. Also, Richard Thomas, for anyone who ever watched like the primetime series of It, he's in the film. He plays the adopted father of Sandra Bullock's sister. This film, when you watch the trailers, you know it's going to be one of these dark journeys or dark performances by Sandra Bullock. She plays it very cold, very quiet in a sense, and then when she explodes, enormously in terms of her performance. The thing that keeps this film from being good, because there's a lot of good ideas in this film. There's a lot of good story plots and story elements that are there. Here's the problem. This movie should have been a miniseries. This should have been like a 6-8 episode miniseries where you gave the time to build these storylines and these characters, because that's ultimately the downfall of this film. You start a storyline element with John Bernthal's character, and then just when it starts getting interesting, they killed it. And he's not in the movie anymore. Then you have this other subplot of these two brothers who play the sons of the cop that Sandra Bullock's character killed, and they're supposed to be important characters, but frankly, they're not given enough time to really develop characters, and whenever they pop up on screen, you just don't care. And the problem is that you should care about these two characters because they're basically two boys who lost their father at a young age, and they're still grieving and hurting about what Sandra Bullock's character Ruth did to their family. But ultimately, the way that they're portrayed and the way they're acted, they just come off villainy. And there are certain elements that happen in the film in the latter half that happens to them, you're just like, I don't care, because you haven't given me enough time to really care about them, because I know that they're going to be basically antagonizers to Sandra Bullock's character, who, even though she's Sandra Bullock, you're still going to root for her because she's Sandra Bullock. So these two characters just aren't well acted. They aren't well written. To the point when they are given some actual screen time, you just kind of want to push through them, and you just don't give a shit about them. Viola Davis is an Oscar-winning actress, and she's really given nothing to do in this film. She basically kind of plays this bitchy character for most of the way, and she's in like 2, maybe 3 scenes tops, and then she gets her big final scene with Sandra Bullock. And that's when she gives her Viola Davis type of performance. But the problem is that by the time you get that performance, you're just like, I don't care about this character. Like, there hasn't been a reason for me to give a shit about Viola Davis's character. Vincent D'Onofrio does a solid job in his performance. He's given enough, little breadcrumbs throughout the film to make his character important to the Ruth character. But Viola Davis just kind of plays this bitter wife of Vincent D'Onofrio who's just very judgmental and kind of just rude and mean to Sandra Bullock's character. And then they finally have this big blow-up argument at the end of the film, which is partially in the trailers. And that's when Viola Davis's acting really shines through, but it's one scene in the entire film. And that's, like I said, had this film been a miniseries and they had given more time to grow and do more with Viola Davis's character and give her character direction outside of like this one mindset, then it would have been a more powerful performance, and it would have had a lot more meaning to it, except for her just kind of playing this judging, person. Sandra Bullock's character, when, she's playing, like I said, she's playing this character very quiet and very, hurt and unwilling to trust, which makes sense for the character she is, but it also leaves a lot of screen time where there's just silence. and she's just doing stuff and there's no dialogue happening. Now when she does explode and shows some real true emotion, Sandra Bullock does a great job there. Like, it's a fantastic performance by her when she gets to actually perform. But a lot of the film is just her just kind of, and that's it. And it's just it's missing something in this film. There's a lot of good things here. There's a lot of good, like, little trails of a good semblance of a story, but ultimately they're not given enough time to do anything, so they ultimately just feel incomplete. And by the end of the film, you're not feeling happy, you're not feeling upset or sad or anything, because it just doesn't feel like the movie's over. But we know that the movie is over because the credits are rolling. It's not like this movie's going to get sequels or anything like that, because it doesn't deserve sequels. But that's the bottom line, is that had this movie been a miniseries and given the proper time to grow these storylines and grow these characters, this could have been a fantastic film, kind of like Mare of Easttown with Kate Winslet. But ultimately, this film just feels like an incomplete thought process of good ideas, but never actually fully utilized or properly written or properly shot, that this film just feels like an incomplete film. And that's basically what the problem is. And that's probably the reason why I got released on Netflix instead of, like, in theaters, is because I think they watched it and realized that this isn't a complete film. So ultimately, I can't recommend this film. Going to my score, I'm going to give it a 45%. Because the performances, when they're actually given something to perform with, I think are very solid. But ultimately, the script and the direction fails all the actors in this film overall. But yeah, that's all the reviews for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, I'm going to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. We currently have reviews for Matrix Resurrections, spoiler and non-spoiler reviews for Spider-Man No Way Home. And then later on in this week, Brian Michaels and myself will be back for another episode of the Weekend Crusaders, where we talk about 5 movies that came out during this weekend in movie history. It is our last episode of the year. So be on the lookout for all those videos. Plus, like I said, there's more movies coming out between now and the rest of the year. There's a lot more movies for me to watch, so expect another one, if not 2 more of these kind of, like, massive review episodes where I'm reviewing, like, 4 or 5 movies at a time. This will not be the only one I'm doing. But yeah, until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.